This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Thank you for joining the Purpose Driven Sobriety podcast. My name is Christine, and I'm an alcoholic. I would like to thank today's sponsor. We have a friend to those of us in recovery in Shannon S. Shannon, thank you so much for sponsoring an episode in honor of another previous guest, Courtney. So if you haven't caught that episode, be sure to go back and catch up. Courtney has a great story, and she loves to share her experience, strength, and hope. So without further ado, today we have Miss Lori on the show. And you're hailing from Wisconsin, right? Did I get that right?
Janesville, Wisconsin. Yes, ma'am.
Is it kind of cold there right now?
Kind of, but it's not too bad. We usually have all that white crap on the ground by now, and for the last couple of years, we have not.
Really?
So,
well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're doing all right.
We're doing all right. That's good.
I'm taking it.
Yeah. See, I don't mind that white stuff every now and then. Of course, I'm down in Waco, Texas. So
it'll melt.
Well, you know what happens here is we get ice. I mean, we don't get the pretty snow and you clear off the road. No, we get ice, and you don't want to be around us people when there's ice on the ground, because we never have an opportunity to drive in this. So we start to think that that's a Jerry Springer show right there.
In Tennessee, that's called a Kroger.
Right.
If you have the store coming in, or the storm coming in, you get to Kroger.
That's right.
Because you're going to be shut down for a week or so.
Yep. Well, and that's the super Walmarts around. I can see it from where we're recording this. But yeah, we go nutso in that kind of weather. So anyway, Lori, thank you for coming on to talk to me. On the show, we just share our experience, strength, and hope with so that we can reach that person who is still suffering from the disease of addiction. And you know what I've found is it's really been a blessing, because this is actually episode 41. That a lot of normies listen to this show, a lot of family members and stuff like that. So it really helps them to get a different perspective on their loved one that's in addiction as well. So without further ado, Miss Thang, I would love to hear your story and what brought you into recovery, and all of your experience, strength, and hope. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, I can just start off with my name is Lori, and I always give my last name, and here's why: because if somebody needs help, I want them to be able to find me.
Yep,
so my name is Lori, Lori Sheets Blank, and I live in Janesville, Wisconsin. My sobriety date is May 15th, 1993. So,
congratulations.
Thanks. I drank, I got drunk, I fell down, and I realized I had a problem sooner or later, and I didn't get help for it for a long time. I can remember drinking at my dad was a German immigrant, and so there was always beer in the house, and I always thought the foam on the beer was so cool. So he'd always let me slurp the foam off the beer. Hello. And I can remember doing that. I mean, there's pictures of me doing it, and I have a diaper on.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was the normal thing. I can remember my parents got divorced at a very young age. I remember a lot of drinking in the family, in the house. We'd go to parties, family parties, get-togethers, a lot of drinking, fighting, all that kind of stuff, which I didn't think it was a big deal. I also noticed I didn't have friends over at my house.
Now, were you an only child?
No.
Okay.
I have two older brothers, one that I was raised with and one that I was not. The one that I was not is quite a bit older. I think he's about 15 years older than me. And then the other brother is 4.5 years older than me.
Okay.
So, it was just a lot of yelling, a lot of fighting. It was just how the house was. And so my parents got divorced at a young age. So my mom was working second shift, and we would have a babysitter that came in the evening, and she was really cool, really pretty. She had a younger son that came with her. He was a toddler, and she smoked pot. So she apparently thought it'd be cool to get a 7-year-old high.
Oh, wow.
There it began.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm already drinking the beer because it's not a big deal. And now the babysitter's getting the 7-year-old high because it's funny to watch a 7-year-old high. And so it was, drugs and alcohol were just normal. It was just normal.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved into my mom moved into another house. The child care was discontinuing rapidly, because my mom would come home probably intoxicated. I don't really know. I was so young, but again, I was always the child that was going to other people's homes, and I can remember going to this one house being babysat, and this was really weird, but I can remember them saying to me, "How would you like to live with us?" And I'm young, and there was no yelling and screaming, and I thought, well, that'd be really cool, but my brother, we'll both live here, right? And they said, no, it would just be you. And I said, I don't think I would like that too much, because it just would be, I felt my little spidey senses were up. It was like, this is a little
Mm-hmm.
weird. Well, shortly after that, I was no longer going over to that house to be babysat. So as an adult and having that recall, I was like, I wonder if they were calling Child Protective Services and they were getting ready to take me in, and maybe parents or mom decided, oh, you're not going there no more, because
Mm-hmm.
what do we do when somebody calls us out on our alcohol or drug use?
Cut them
Well,
out. Yep. Cut them out.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You-
You're dead to me. Yep.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know I that happened a couple different times in my childhood with babysitters. So I'm thinking that that's where that was at. Anyway, um, so life progresses. I'm in school, and I'm hanging out with the people that who do we hang out with? We hang
Mm-hmm.
out with birds of a feather, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm hanging out with other kids that are doing drugs and drinking, and my house was the party house because, when you're being raised by somebody who drinks, drinking with them, my mom, she was all right with it. So I drank in the house, I did drugs in the house. It was life. That was just how life was. And then I started noticing when I got into middle school and later, my friends are all going to treatment. What the hell? Why? Why? Because the parents were swooping them and putting them into treatment. I wasn't going to treatment. I was kind of intrigued about all this story. Well, what's treatment? What do you guys do there? And I can remember one of my one friend that got out of treatment. Their mom found their glass bong. Remember those glass bongs?
Yes. Yes.
So she took it, put it in the sink, and I guess smashed it. And we were all like, "Oh, that sucks. No more bong hits."
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
bummer. Uh, so yeah, I progressed, and I think about what was I, 14? I think I was about 14 or 15 years old. I was introduced to cocaine,
Oh wow.
and that was nice
Mm-hmm.
because then I could drink longer, and it was just the progression. It was my norm. Doing acid at a party over the weekend. It was normal. I didn't. It, Now I will say this: I was not raised in a Christian home. However, how God worked in my life was I always had a Christian family close by my house that ended up taking me to church, and I learned about God, who I choose to call my higher power. And so at a very young age, I also had my first spiritual experience. I was camping, and I can remember this vividly. I was camping, and there had been some rain, and there was this, I don't know if, so there was a slide, and they had those like monkey bar things that came up and arched over, and you
Yeah.
climbed up on the dome over it.
Yeah.
See, yeah, we might be in the same age
I
group
think
here.
so.
and then you can slide down the big fat slide that you burn your ass on when it's hot out, you know.
Yep.
So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden the sky just kind of opened up, and like sunlight just came down. And I'm sitting there looking at that, and I can remember looking at it and going, everything's going to be all right. And I was young.
How
I
old
was
were you?
young. Let's see, it was out camping, and I quit doing that when I was about 10. So I was probably about 8 or 9.
Oh, wow.
And I, it was just planted in my head, because I'm a firm believer that we will have things planted into our head for that recall eventually in life.
Sure.
And I can remember seeing the sun come down, after a rain, how it just kind of peeks through the clouds and it just comes. And I just thought, that's got to be God. And, you know, so then I ended up with another family when we moved, another family, and I recently got in touch with them. I've been able to actually write letters and thank people that have done the homes where where I got to experience that actual family love. And so there was another family, and they took me to church. And when I earlier from that point, even there was a family across the street, and when things would get crazy at the house, I would call them and they'd come running over to the house to get the fighting to stop and stuff. So on a long tangent throughout all of this, I always wanted to change my perception of reality. So the drugs and alcohol, no matter if I liked them or not, changed my perception of reality. I smoked pot, but I hated smoking pot. Hated it. Couldn't stand the way I felt, nothing. But it changed my perception of reality.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever I could get my hands on to change my perception of reality, I would do it. So long story short, or long, however you choose to look at it, I'm drinking, so on and so forth. And I think I was about 14 or 15 years old, and somebody was in treatment, and I attended an AA meeting at the treatment center, and it was in Rockford, Illinois. And when I heard everybody talking, I always knew that something was wrong. Blackouts. Why didn't I remember? Why can't I remember some stuff that happened yesterday? Or why can't I remember this or that? And nobody ever explained to me what that was. I just thought that just sucks. I can't remember part of the day because I was young. So when I went to this meeting and I learned about what that was, I thought, oh my gosh, they're talking about me. That's crazy, And of course, I'm not going to stop or anything like that. So I still had the parties. I mean, my experience was bad. I can't say it was bad because all of our experiences were bad.
Mm.
But I can remember one of the times having a party at my house because my house was the weekend party spot. And one of the times, I got so bad that they put me in another room and thought maybe, and this was at my own house. They figured if they would just put me in the other room, I'd be okay. I don't know what happened. I don't know if somebody tried to come in there to take advantage of me or what, but there was what looks like some type of a struggle because there was they found me in the living room without any clothes on. A lamp was knocked over, and I'm not sure if a chair was knocked over or not, but it looked like a struggle.
Mm.
So they found me, put me back in the room, and I guess I passed out for the rest of the night, and then I was told about what had happened the next morning. Well, that didn't even make me think I needed to probably quit. I knew that there was a problem, but I just I wasn't going to give it up yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just won't show my face around those people for a while, and maybe whoever saw me will just kind of forget about it. But here I am 38 years later, and I didn't forget about it, and I share it because if somebody else is there, you know, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
You can get better. So, fast forward, I ended up running into a guy, and we we were we knew each other in high school, and he used to walk me home occasionally because the boyfriend that I had in high school was physically abusive, and it was bad. There were times my senior year of high school, I went to school with a cast on my face because this right here, it looks okay, doesn't it? Because it's reconstructed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even then, that was just normal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he he just did it because he loves me so much. Because that was just what I learned. And so anyway, this boy that used to walk me home, we ended up meeting up, and we started dating, and later we got married. And I'm still drinking. I get a DUI because he was the designated driver. And when we got out to the car, now notice how I just said that. I got a DUI because he was the designated, not because I was shit faced or anything, shit behind the wheel, but because he was designated driver. Anyway, we get done partying that night. We go out to the car, and he can't figure out how to open the door, and I'm figuring, well, I can at least get the key I can put it in the keyhole to unlock the door, so I should probably drive.
Rational
You,
thinking.
yes, rational thinking. I can at least manage the key in the keyhole. So I ended up getting my first DUI, and then I went to those classes that they make you take. And that's when I learned that my liver was probably getting ready to take a crap on me.
Mm.
Because when you drink, your liver takes care of those toxins.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go into a blackout, your liver can't handle taking out those toxins anymore. You drank too fast, drank too much, whatever the case may be, but the liver is like, nope, I'm done. I'm on overload. I'm working overtime, and I'm not getting paid, so I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when the teacher was talking about this, and he was talking about the progression and how you have such a high tolerance, and then all of a sudden your tolerance bottoms out, and you can become intoxicated after just a few drinks. And I was like, wait a minute, I used to be able to drink most guys under the table. Now, after a few drinks, I'm drunk. And so I asked, so a friend of mine
Wink, wink.
used to drink a lot, and they would be just fine. And now, after a few drinks, they get pretty buzzed. They get drunk. And he stopped what he was doing, looked me straight in the face, and said, tell your friend their liver's shutting down.
Ooh.
And I was just like, I'll be sure to tell her.
Mm-hmm.
I still didn't quit.
Mm.
So I just kept going, and I never lost anything. I wrecked a car. I worked. I bought another one. I hit a mailbox one time, which I guess you could get in a lot of trouble for. Okay, I fixed my car, repaired the damage, and kept going. I just, it was just life.
Mm-hmm.
And then um, my boyfriend and I, he was my boyfriend at the time, we did get married. We were out at this bar, and and I had tried to quit drinking numerous times. I had tried because I thought something's just got to be these blackouts and stuff. Other people aren't drinking like this. And I would try, and because I had been introduced to a 12-step recovery, I had gone, and I had like a few months here, a few months there, 8 months here, 9 months there. So, if I can sober up for that amount of time, and if I can abstain from alcohol and drugs for that amount of time, there can't be a problem, because people that have those problems they can't quit
Mm-hmm.
ever. So I would just go in and out. And we were at this bar, and I'm watching everybody, and it was a perfect setup. I'm sitting at this table. Across from me is a mirror. I've got my bottle of beer in my hand, and I'm looking at the beer, and they're, come on, Lori, come on, go dance. Let's go dance. Okay, okay, because I got to prime up.
Mm-hmm.
I got to do this stuff with just me. So I am looking at this beer, and I'm watching everybody out there having fun and having a good time. I'm looking at the beer, and I'm watching them. I'm looking at the beer, and I got pissed. I got just so mad, because I thought to myself, what is it about this that makes me not able to go do that without this?
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking, what can I do without this? Can I do anything without this? Can I have a day of being happy without this? Can I have a day of being sad without this? Can I do anything without this? And it bought that I just it made me mad. And then it all just kind of clicked. And I thought, wow, I've got a problem. I don't even know who I am. First of all, I don't know anything. I don't know how to be sad. I don't know how to be mad. I don't know how to do anything without this. So I drank, didn't get drunk, because my whole night, I'm in my head about this now, but I knew what I had to do. So I continued to have fun with everybody, and I drank and all that kind of stuff, and played it off and had a good time. And on the way home, I told my boyfriend, um, I said, I'm going to quit drinking. And he looked at me and started laughing. And he said, yeah, right. Sure you are. I said, no, really. I am. I can't do this anymore. Yeah, okay, Lori. Well, I took that as a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the perfect challenge at the perfect time, because that was May 14th of 1993.
Wow.
So the next day, um, I went on I don't know how I found it, but I went to a 12-step meeting, a recovery group. And when I went in there, I told people, that it was my first time there, and I was new to the city, and so on and so forth. And it was the worst experience of my life. I was, no one introduced themselves to me. Nobody came up and talked to me after the meeting. Nothing. And I am such an advocate. I mean, if there is somebody new in a group, I don't care if you like me. I don't care, but I'm going to make sure that I introduce myself to
100%. Yeah,
you.
that's not the norm for groups. Yeah,
Right.
that's a shame.
And this was, well, it was what it needed to be, because I was working in a bar at the time, and I was a waitress and a bartender. And I continued to do that for the first 2 years of my recovery. And it was fine. But what it ended up doing was I ended up going into finding churches. And I found a church that I absolutely love. And so for the first 12 years of me being clean and sober, I was in a church. I didn't attend 12-step groups. I didn't do any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember after 12 years, I had found a place that I liked to go to, and I went and got a coin. That was the first coin I got was a 12-year coin. And then I started to frequent this place and made some friends, because I had made some friends through church that knew about different recovery groups and such. And so I continued to do that. And then, I started noticing more and more where people would stay and go, stay and go, stay and go. And it really broke my heart because it was like, what's going on here? Um, so there was this um, so we have a GM plan here in our town,
Mhm.
had a GM plan. And my husband, um, who was drinking, he was still drinking. He was working at a provider for the GM plant. So when GM shut down here and the other plant, Lear, shut down as well, our finances took a hit. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I had always wanted to be a substance abuse counselor. So I became a substance abuse counselor and got my substance abuse counselor in training license. So I started working at a rehab and I loved it. So now this is 2008, 2000, 2009, 2007. Okay, so in recovery, it is not always a bed of roses. I have experienced loss. I have experienced a house fire. I have experienced so I was separated. Um, Probably would have gotten divorced, but he passed away before that could happen. So, I mean, it was just a rash of stuff. So I started going back to 12-step recovery, and I started finding a really good group of people. And so when my husband lost his job, and I had already been in the process of wanting to becoming a substance abuse counselor, I got a job at a rehab here in town. Loved it. Absolutely loved that job. And just loved helping the people. I was running a primary house where people were coming in, sick, really reminding me of how bad things can be.
Mm.
And I loved it. Um, I used to call on the weekends when I wasn't working just to see how my people, and that's what I would say, how are my people doing? And so the it, they ended up finding out that I was calling and saying that. So then I acquired the nickname of Mama Peeps. So I'd show up and they'd be like, "Hey, Mama Peeps, how's it going?" Which I thought it was just funny, but I just loved that connection. And then my husband passed away in 2010. We had begun proceedings for a legal separation in 2000, October of 2009. And then in February of 2010, he passed away. So now I'm in this town where I have my core group of people that I had met in recovery, so I could really lean on them. And then it also made me realize why I was so active in my church. And that was because those were the people that really loved on me when all of that happened. So through all of that, I never had to drink. I never had to use drugs. I didn't have to do any of that stuff, because I had all of that support. And that really put in that foundation for me of my higher power.
Mm.
So I'm trying not to get to where it's like I'm jumping around, but you know how I can do that. I
That's
just
okay.
then this happened and then that happened. So when my husband passed away, being the good addict alcoholic that I am, I tried to find other ways to make myself happy. And with that, I started dating when I shouldn't have been dating. I got involved and I should have never done that. I should have focused wholly on getting through my time with my children.
Mhm.
And that is one of the regrets that I have in recovery because I really should have focused on my kids. But even in sobriety, we aren't perfect and we mess up.
Right.
And so, my kids are great, everybody's doing great. We have moved forward. We really came together for a time. And then we had another blow 4 years later. Their grandfather, who basically had stepped in and helped me to raise them, he ended up unexpectedly passing away. And I mean, you know, we really came together as a family, and that was in 2014. And my father in law used to say to me all the time, "You guys are a team. Always remember that. You guys are a team." So in 2014, after he passed away, we just came together and we took a 2-week trip. Went on a cruise, went to Florida. We just shut out the outside world and just took took care of us, which was really cool because we all got to grow. And in sobriety, growth, I think, is just so important because if you don't grow and you become complacent, I think that's when I think that's when
Dangerous.
yes.
Very dangerous.
And I see that more and more and more now where people are, so I did continue to do the substance abuse counseling. And I gave it up after my husband passed away, and I have gotten back to it now. Um, but I just, it just blows my mind sometimes when relapse happens.
Mm.
And so I've really started to try to figure out, why is this happening? I mean, you have to see it places where you go. Why do you think it happens?
People quit doing what they needed to do to get into recovery to begin with. Period. It's one of those things where I know that, and I was actually having a friendly debate with a sister on one of the Facebook pages. It's one of those things that, here's the deal. I know a lot of people who have gotten sober without, for instance, AA or a 12-step program. I know a lot of people have gotten sober. But I don't know a single person who has worked the 12 steps that originated 88 years ago. I don't know a single person after March will be 12. I'll be 12. That has worked the steps that has not remained in recovery. Period. This is when 100% of the time someone has relapsed and comes back into the room, and you go, what happened? I quit going to meetings. I quit talking to a sponsor. I quit being of service to others. I quit. There's your answer. And I think, Lori, we make it so complicated. And like I said, for me, there's a huge difference between sobriety and recovery, right? I don't want to be sober.
See, that's where I say, to me, there's a huge difference between, and we're probably saying the same thing. There's a huge difference in being sober, and there's a huge difference in living in sobriety.
Same, yeah. Which I just choose to call recover.
Right.
Our book says we have recovered from a hopeless state. But when you it's just like when you're married. You can look up after, my husband and I, after 20 years of marriage and things are stale, and you go, okay, well, what, something's wrong. Well, when's the last time I just did something for him just because? Or when's the last time I called him and just said, you know what, I think you're awesome. See ya. Have a great day. Bye. When's the last time I quit? When did I quit doing what I did to get him in my life to begin with? Yeah. Same thing with recovery. Same thing with anything in life. When you quit doing the things that got you into a beautiful state, the beautiful state goes away, And so that's why this is a program of, for me, the program of recovery, whether it be Celebrate Recovery, however you get there, when you stop doing what helped you get out of self, the demons come back. They come back. They're not dead. My demons are not dead. I can assure you my demons are not dead. I go a week and a half without a meeting, honey, I grow horns. And people are going, who are you and what is going on? It's like, because I'm back into myself. And when I'm in myself, oh, honey, I don't care about you. That's just my human nature. When I'm so obsessed with myself, I can't possibly be of use to you or anyone else. Yeah. Why do you think people relapse?
I think that lots of times I agree with what you said. And I also think that people get into recovery and they become complacent, they become stagnant. They go to their meetings, they talk to their sponsor. They do A B C, A B C, A B over and over
Checking
and
the
over
boxes.
again.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, what I have heard often, I got bored. I got sick and tired of hearing the same people say the same thing over and over and over again. And that started to just baffle me because, and what I had to learn was everybody's different. People are all different. So for myself, when I got into recovery, I wanted more. I wanted more. My addictive personality is not just, I just want a little. I want more. So in recovery, okay, I want more of this. That feels good. I want more of this. I want more of this. I have an addictive personality. You cannot have Oreos in my house. Mm-mm. Because I will eat one Oreo and then I will eat the whole package.
Mm-hmm.
I have finally come to the bargaining chip of, if I get a package of Oreos, I'll just eat one row at a time.
Just like we only used to drink or try to drink on girl. But you know what? But see, Lori, there's a fine line, because at the beginning of the show, what was it you said about growth?
Well, that's my point.
It's like,
that is my point.
Wanting more doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, because if you're not growing, you're dying, right?
That is exactly my point.
Right.
The complacency.
Yes.
Because complacency will kill.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got to a point in sobriety where it was just like, where I want more. I want more of the good stuff. I want more of the sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you have purpose-driven sobriety, and I started a thing with, not to do a plug or anything like that, but I started doing sobriety with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Same type of thing. I didn't just get sober to just have sobriety. I want to live in sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do this stuff. And then, so that made me really have to look at, okay, I've had all of these years sober and I'm watching people go in and out, in and out, in and out. What is going on? Are people even really finding out what the definition of happiness is for them? Because recovery is not a cookie cutter process. Mm-hmm. It is not just stamped and everybody gets the same thing over and over and over again. We all have so many different things that we have to go through. I mean, I have seen people have 20 years in recovery, and the next thing you know, they are losing their mind. Mm-hmm. Or they're being, they're allowing treatment that they shouldn't allow because they just don't know any better. And I love 12-step recovery, 100%. 100% love 12-step recovery. But you even said yourself, I become selfish and self-centered. I sometimes believe that people think, when they're thinking of themselves, they start thinking that that's wrong, and that means they're becoming selfish and self-centered. I have a woman who I started talking to. She lost her daughter. And because she wanted to do something, she then started saying, oh, but I'm being selfish and self-centered. I'm being selfish and self-centered. And I just was like, what are you talking about? And she said, well, I'm only thinking of me if I do this. Honey, you're grieving. You can think of you.
Yeah, that's self-care. There's such a thing as self-care that yeah, you have to, well, and that is, and you're right. There is a double-edged sword, because we say that this is not a selfish program, but then in the same breath we say tune the entire world out and focus on yourself. So it's like,
Right.
okay, well, the steps are numbered for a reason. But yeah, it's one of those things where you have to. I think when you're faced with that type of situation, you have to look behind the curtain and say, okay, what's the motive? Is this
Right.
self care, or is this selfish? I think there's a huge
Right.
difference.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's where when people just are in recovery and all they are another back up. My brain's thinking faster than
That's
my mouth
okay.
can work.
That's okay.
Like you had just said, with the self-care and being selfish, usually what's our motivation when we get into recovery? Lots of times it's because something happened. Something bad happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden we get in there and it's like, okay, I'm fixing this, I'm fixing that, I'm fixing this. Okay, I'm good. Now what? And no one ever shows them the now what. Okay, well, you don't just have to punch a clock, go to work, go to meetings, and go home. Find out where you're happy. What makes you happy?
Mm-hmm.
What are the interests that you want to do? Maybe you want to start a new job. Maybe you want to do this. Maybe you want to do that. But sometimes I feel like in recovery, we get so busy beating ourselves up that we don't put the sledgehammer down and continue to see, like you said, to be of service.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be of service. I want to be of service doing something that I like doing. I want to have a grateful heart when I'm being of service. I want to be able to do those things that light me on fire, because I think that if I'm doing something that makes me happy, I'll continue to do it more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Like reaching out to the newcomer, reaching out to making sure that people know where you're coming from, so that way you can help more people. Finding out where your desires are, so you can continue on that path. Now you've even got more motivation to stay sober, because you're not going to be able to do that if you're using. You're not going to be able to accomplish those things if you're drinking or sitting in a bar, to find that motivation to keep going. So often people get into recovery and then they're just kind of let down. Not let down because of other people, but let down because they don't realize how much more there is to having life in sobriety.
Well, and
That-
the people that I've seen that are exactly what you just described haven't worked the steps. They get through a certain number and they're like, I'm good, I'm not drinking, nobody's mad at me, I'm feeling relatively confident, and then they stop. It's one of those things that step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, not a result, as the result. That's the one
Right.
result, having had a spiritual experience. And once you have had a spiritual awakening in that sense, which is pert near guaranteed when you have worked all 12 of those steps, honestly, and the way it's prescribed from 88 years ago, I know many people who just, they get good and they're good, and then they blame the program for not working. Right again.
How about this one? A character defect. That's my character defect. You just have to accept it.
Okay. Well, and as soon as you've had, and that's what we tell people, as soon as you've had enough misery, we're still gonna be here. There's still, and that's what, man, I'm so stinking grateful to have this, to have a program, have my community, to be able to go anywhere in the world and find my people, on a cruise ship or in Alaska or Abu Dhabi. I can find my people. You said yourself, you called to check on your people. That's because we are the survivors of the same shipwreck. You knew what those people were going through in that treatment center by themselves. They were
Right.
scared to death. And you
Right.
knew what that felt like. And you wanted to be that hand that reached out to say, someone gave a crap enough to call on her day off to go, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
That
100%.
that is not selfish. You making that phone call to check on those people was not selfish. That was self-care, believe it or not, because it was feeding your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You had to be flying on cloud nine when you hung up that phone and thought they're tucked, you know what I mean? They're tucked in,
Yeah.
they're okay, then you could move on. That gave you that much more strength. Oh, I just got chills. That much more strength to go on and take on whatever else was coming your way. You know,
And isn't that really what we need to do?
a million times, yes. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And what when I say about, when someone, because believe it or not, I have heard people that have said, this is my character defect and you just have to accept me the way I am. Okay, I have to accept you the way that you are, yes, but I do not have to accept ill behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are claiming this as your character defect, obviously, I don't know about you, but a defect is something that needs to get fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know that this is your character defect, I don't know.
Yeah, how's it working out for you?
Maybe you're calling it a defect because you even know that you need to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and reaching out and showing people that there's a better way. It absolutely when people come in and when people are getting sober, so many people know how to get sober once they've begun the process, but it's that staying. It's that staying that always concerns me, because those that don't stay, when they leave, the chance of them dying is so great.
Oh my gosh. I know for me, to drink again is absolutely 100% to die. I'll die. That's not a saying in my experience.
Right.
For me to drink
Right.
again is 100% to die. And yeah, and here's what I'm seeing too, Lori, is I'm seeing people not saying the truth. They're, skirting around certain things. There are some people that can't handle me because I am so. Now, is my truth the only truth? No. No, of course not.
It can
I'm
be
not
for you.
Yeah, I'm not the one. What I know to be true for my experience, and what I know to be true for observing, going on 12 years at this gig, is that when people get bored, just like in a marriage, you stop doing the things that got you there to begin with. You have stopped doing something, because like I said, 100% of the time, that person says to you, well, I'm just bored, or I click on, okay, what have you stopped doing? Because what happens is we get back into selfish, not self-care. We get back into selfish, and that is just sludge. That's a gross place to be. When you're it's just gross. You hate yourself. You hate whether you're willing to say it or not. Most people's experience or their actions and their words and how it's outwardly just oozes out that toxic self stuff. They quit doing what the program prescribed to do. Period. And that is our primary purpose. Our primary purpose, 100%, because I've got the video camera, 100%. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help another alcoholic addict. Period. You can't decorate that. That is it. That is, if you want recovery, that has got to be your primary purpose, is to stay sober, because you can't give away what you don't have, and to help another human being's soul.
And you just really touched on something. You cannot give away what you don't have.
Mm-mm. Good and bad.
Right?
Good.
Right.
If I don't have hate and resentment and anger, because honey, I can give that away. That away. I walk up to a checkout stand and I'm ugly to this checkout person. You think they're going to be kind to the next person? Or do you think they're going to be, honey, I can give away bad stuff too.
For sure. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting all comfy now. We're getting
I
into
know,
some
right?
talk.
I love it. I just like because it's real. It's just
Yes,
real.
it is.
And
And
here's the deal, just like I said, there's normies that listen to this show. Substitute the word alcoholic addict for anger, resentment, fear, anything that keeps you from reaching your fullest potential. Anxiety, depression. I know there's clinical. Don't write me letters. I know that there's clinical depression. I get it. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. Because in my world, depression is because I didn't get my way in the past, or God didn't do my will. And anxiety is that I'm probably not going to get my will, or God's not going to let me have my will in the future. That is most of the people I know. That is the definition of depression, anxiety. I know that there's clinical. Okay, just
yes,
don't.
there is clinical.
I get
And
it.
let me tell you, let me say, for those people that would choose to write those letters, if you have clinical depression and you are choosing to drink, you are making the clinical depression
A
worse.
million times worse.
It is not self-medicating. It is delusional to think that you are actually medicating, because you're not medicating. A
Mm-hmm.
doctor prescribes medication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you are using drugs and alcohol illicitly to help with mental health, that is not self-medication.
That is a slippery slope.
That's getting high.
Right. And it
That
won't
is
end well.
changing your perception of reality. And the bad part about that is you will have to continue to use more to have that effect, because using in the first place continues to grow the depression.
Mm-hmm.
So it will just be a vicious cycle. If you are clinically depressed, you need medical
Right.
attention.
Medical attention. Absolutely. Thank you for that disclaimer. Thank you for that disclaimer. Most of the people I know don't fall into that. Medical necessity category. It is a self-inflicted depression, anxiety, self.
Right.
That's
Right.
the one place I want nothing to do with. I don't want anything to do with myself. I don't. I don't want the minute I start getting into self, honey, everybody hates me. Everybody's against me. It's just a nasty place to be.
You said I can't quote you on it because I don't know verbatim, but self-care versus selfish are two different things.
Right.
And I think so often that, I'm not going to say specifically women, or more often than not women, because that would be unfair, but I hear often when people are being told that they're being selfish, it's sometimes, a lot of time, it is that they need to practice self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're told so often about being selfish, and like you said, when we are told we have to be selfish in our program and we can't be selfish here and we can't, that is hard. But I know in our heart of hearts, I call it mind effing.
Mm-hmm.
When I continue to try and rationalize something or something like that, we know in our heart of hearts where our intentions truly are, where our motivation really is. And I think, you can teach a parrot the big book. You can teach a parrot to recite scripture. You can teach them all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the person that I want to learn from is the person that I see outside, that has all of where I can visually see
Mm-hmm.
the promises are coming true in their
Right.
life.
Mm-hmm.
And I have said this before. If I have $100,000 and I want to invest it, I'm going to research who makes money, and that's who I'm going to invest it with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to invest it with somebody that just shows up and can spout off some Dow Jones and can spout off some this,
Right.
and this. I'm not going to say, oh, well, you sound really good. You sound intelligent. I'm going to hand you all my money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make sure that the person I'm handing it to has a track record of some quality stuff, and I am grateful that in my time of recovery, in my time of being sober, I have sought out those people. I don't go to a lot of meetings anymore, but I am involved in so many other things that feed my recovery that I will continue on that path. I I head up meetings for our county jail, so I do attend meetings there. There is a weekly meeting that I like to get to when I can. When I travel, I like to go to meetings. As a matter of fact, I just was in Poughkeepsie, New York, and I had a couple days extra, and I thought, I'm going to drive out to Vermont and go see where Bill Wilson lived.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to his birthplace and I went to his grave and I attended a meeting there. I am in recovery and I am going to continue to feed my recovery, but I'm going to do that with a purpose now of helping the other person.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just because I want to continue to, how do I say this correctly? I'm always in danger of relapse because I am the person that I am. But I know today that I am not going to drink because I am the person that I am. Does that make sense?
100%. Mm-hmm. Well, that
And
little
then,
saying that your disease is in the parking lot doing push-ups, kind of thing,
for sure.
is a true statement because I think when a lot of people get into trouble as well, Lori, is when they get away from the one day at a time. When it's like I don't know if I'm going to be sober tomorrow. I hope I am. But I'm pretty damn confident I'm going to be sober today, right? And if you expand, which my higher power I choose to call God as well, if you expand past that, it's give us this day
Right.
our daily, not give us this week our weekly, give us this month our monthly. It's give us, God only said, to one day. One day, that's it.
Right.
That's all you got. And I know I can speak for 99.999% of us. And in our literature too, it says that one is God. May you find him. What is that? Now, the one place I never am. I'm never. That's the one place I never am. I'm never in the now. Because even just sitting here with you a minute ago, I just had an oh crap moment. Who did I forget for? I didn't mean to, but who did I forget for Chris? Oh, I need to get him Chris. It was a fleeting thought, but I sometimes, all the time, I fly away in the now. And it takes something,
Sure.
and it's such a damn shame. I'm better. I'm much better than what I used to be. Much better. But that now. I have to pull myself back because I want to be here with you. I want to be creating something that possibly God's going to use to save another one of his kids. In the now. Now is this opportunity. And I very seldom am in the now. That one is God, may you find him now. I try to make things so complicated.
Gosh.
I can remember, because I was going to meetings for a good 6 months before my final hoorah. And I'm a smart person. I can read what's up on the wall, those steps. I don't need someone to walk me through them. I mean, I guess maybe you need a sponsor. So I didn't do the program as the program was prescribed. And it almost killed me, but it was one of those things where it was like, you people cannot possibly be an alcoholic the way I am if you just think that this little blue book right here, is going to save me. I need a medical procedure. I need a team of medical doctors, a cocktail of medical pills. I need something much grander than a little blue book, right? And whoever the sponsor thing is. It was.
You're the best at being bad.
Yeah, it was. Well, and it was just too simple. There was no possible way. How could there? I didn't know what I didn't know. Because I have to complicate things. Keep it simple, stupid is another thing we.
That's a true statement.
Just stop it. Just stop it.
Right.
Right.
It
Just stop. And it still amazes me today. And I don't ever want it to not amaze me. You know, how simple and just beautiful working a program is. It just, when you, how simple and beautiful it is to get out of yourself, which
And
is
the
what the program taught me.
self-discovery.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Good and bad. I was having a talk with a friend earlier too. Going into 4 and then you get to 8, 9. You know, you feel like you're just beating the crap out of yourself. No. Tell me some things that are good about you.
Right.
What do you love? What's your
Right.
passion?
Right.
It's not all bad. Sometimes you gotta take out the trash to see what's underneath beautiful. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is not a program where we just beat the crap out of you and go, don't drink. You know, the discovery, so many. Here's the deal. I discovered I like me.
Yep. I take vacations by myself, girl.
Can you imagine? And seriously, when you think about it, think of all the normies that you know in your life that would be comfortable enough with themselves to do something like that. Very few.
To go out to dinner by yourself.
Oh, that's huge.
Go see a movie by yourself.
That's huge.
You get to have the popcorn any way you want it.
Right. I love it. I love it. It's such a beautiful life on this side of it. You know, it's such a beautiful life. And I could lose it in a heartbeat if I stopped doing the things that got me here to begin with. Period.
And that is the part where, and that was literally why I started the stuff in which I'm doing now, because my coach, I literally went up to her after a conference and I said, why aren't we teaching this to people? Why aren't we teaching this to people? And why I say complacency kills, you know, because, okay, people get sober, people get clean, and then they stop. It's not that they stop going to meetings. It's that they stop believing that there's actually more.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't realize that they can have all that stuff that you think, you know, you make a list of everything that you want. Make that vision board of the stuff that you want. You really can have those things.
Mm-hmm.
They're attainable. And it's like people just kind of give up on their dreams. And to dream while I'm in sobriety is phenomenal,
Mm-hmm.
because only is it a dream, but I can make that shit happen.
But there's foundational work that has to be in place
Absolutely.
to build that on. If you haven't
100%.
built a solid foundation, anything you add to a crumbly foundation is
It
just
crumbles.
gonna fall
100%.
apart. You know,
100%. But don't you think that to keep those dreams alive, you've got that foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and to continue building on,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't it just make it that much more appealing
Mm-hmm.
to stay in recovery, because you know that you can have that much more? I just think people get sober and they stop.
Right.
And I that breaks my heart, because there is so much more.
Well, and
to life.
and see, Lori, that's exactly what you're describing, though, is the difference between being sober and in
Right.
recovery. In
Right.
recovery, you're giving it away. You're giving, you know, people don't come into the program realizing, I don't sponsor you. Yeah, for you. Okay. I get way more out of sponsoring
more.
another woman than she ever gets from me. I
Mhm.
get way more out of doing this podcast than the person listening or watching ever will get out of it, because it keeps me in recovery, so that in the next moment, I can maybe be of service some more. I mean, it's feeding my soul and making me stronger.
Right.
That's not selfish. This is self-care to me, honey. Talking to another alcoholic addict and about our common problems and our common solutions. Man, gosh, dog, that's why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced of it. I have found my purpose is to continue to try to give it away.
That's exactly it. And what if other people found their purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have your purpose in this, and your purpose drove you to doing a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I have always felt that my purpose is in counseling. So I became a substance abuse counselor. I was working in a methadone clinic, couldn't do the hours, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get there so it could open at 5. And I kept seeing people come in that just weren't in that, they wanted to want it. And it was just like, okay, if you can at least visualize a life that you would actually dream, what is that? There's no normal for anybody.
I got to tell you, I don't want to think this, but experience and what I have watched happen tells me this, that if you haven't reached some level of gift of desperation, it's a real thing. That gift of desperation is a real thing. That is usually the catalyst or the spark that starts the change, the real change.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And it's so different. It's so different like my bottom.
Right.
I wasn't in a
was
car
nothing
accident.
like mine. Right.
I didn't lose somebody. None of that happened. At that particular moment, my bottom was just that realization that this has such a hold on me.
Even past a realization, the way at least you described that moment of looking at that beer while everybody was out dancing was almost a point of surrender. You surrendered to it.
Yes.
You were like, I recognize you're the boss, man. Beer, alcohol, drugs, you're the boss. And I don't want that boss anymore.
Yeah, I don't want to work for you no more.
That was a surrender and an acceptance that happened there, which is the same. Mine's decorated a little bit differently. Same feeling of just being sick and tired, and I was sick of me. I was done. I was done. I was nowhere near the kind of person. I was the kind of person I talked crap about. It was I was gross. I was a liar. I was manipulative. And I wasn't a liar and manipulative because I was a liar and manipulative. I was a liar and manipulative because I was sick. I had a disease, a spiritual malady that was killing me. And there is a solution. Tell people how. I'm so glad you're sober. I'm so glad that you're in recovery.
Me too.
I'm so glad.
Me too. And everybody that I come in contact should be glad.
Yeah, I bet. Ditto. Ditto, because you wouldn't want me, Nunny. You wouldn't want to know me. Tell people how they can find you or get in touch with you.
Okay, so my Facebook, Lori Blank. I literally hyphenate Lori Sheets Blank. SHEETZ and then blank, like a blank sheet of paper. First name is LORI. Find me on Facebook, DM me. I am going to try to get a website started up sometime in January. Send me a message. I do free consults right off the get-go because, I just saw the time. Because like I said, my heart is for the person that's in recovery that is still suffering.
Amen.
There are so many of us out there, and it doesn't have to be that way. And for those that aren't in recovery and they're suffering, man, there's a better life.
Well, including family members, Al-Anon is it's not my program, but it's a beautiful program for family. It helps save my husband. Well, I should be too, but I love hanging with my people. I love the AAs, but Al definitely, I qualify pretty much for every ism that there is out there. But Al-Anon is a beautiful program for family members.
It is.
It really helps save Rick's life. You can hear his share. I think it's on episode 3. So, or something like that. Go back and look. But anyway, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Same to you.
Yeah,
this will air after the holidays, so
yeah. Well, happy holidays anyway.
Start off
happy
24 with a bang.
There you go. That's right. Thank you for listening to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Keep coming back. Thanks for listening to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Keep coming back.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.